in the darkest of nights. Through valleys and storms, your light ignites my life. Love notes from the heavens calling out to me. Every word a treasure, setting my spirit free. With faith in my heart and love full of light, I'll walk this path, guided by your sight.
Hey everybody, this is Melissa with Love Notes from God, and tonight I have my friend again with me, Sam St. Laurent. Sam, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
All right, so we'll go on to chapter 28. So there's election day in Missouri, and you already kind of laid the foundation for what's been going on within the membership. People, especially in different positions, having falling outs with Joseph and just general falling out with the church. It's like either they had an issue with the church or a lot of them had an issue with Joseph. And I remember Sidney Rigdon, he was a pastor, if I remember correctly.
He was.
So he had to be very confident in what he was doing, which made him great and be a great orator when it came to him speaking. But then there's that option of pride that comes in, and so it's like, am I doing my will or the Lord's will? And it is hard when it's something that, like we talk about, my faith tradition, whatever. For me, I even have a hard time saying like faith tradition because it's true. To me, it's like just absolutely true. So I'm like, okay, so it's hard for me to even know what to say because like that's just where my testimony is. But anyway, so on election day in Missouri in 1838, August 6th, it says, after Joseph had established a stake in Adam-ondi-Ahman, which you talked about, the settlement blossomed. So they put down, they have members living there in Adam-ondi-Ahman. The settlement blossomed and more than 200 houses had been built. The Saints could now influence the county vote. And that angered many other settlers. And it's really interesting right now because in 2020, the election for like 2026, both of the candidates went and talked to the Latter-day Saints in Arizona, I believe, because they could affect the vote. And there's some other things that have happened in the news here, and it is 2026 right now. In July, it is August now, August 2026. But there have been some other things that have happened in like politically at the White House and stuff where they said was it the military where they weren't recognizing Latter-day Saints, or was that just
in the military, they were reclassifying LDS as not Christian, but as its own category. I have my own opinions on it. I don't think it really makes much of a difference with the way our ecclesiastical structure works.
Yeah.
But I know like a lot of people like took offense to that because like, hey, we're Christians and we are Christian. It's just, I think I could understand why they were doing that. And I think it actually did somewhat make sense, but they reversed it. Yeah, they reversed it. Everyone made a big enough uprising about it that they reversed that policy.
Well, to me, I'm like, is this another second coming sign that there won't be a need to have a Christian? Like either somebody could say this is an attack, that there's no Christians, or, nobody gets to be a Christian, or it's like, because Christ is going to be here. So that's going to be like the norm. I don't know. I like to see that he's coming soon. That's what I like to see, that he's coming soon. That's my feelings. But so it's just not going to matter, because he's going to be the King of Kings and Lords of Lords.
Yeah.
Anyways, so all right. So as John approached the polling place, and this was in Missouri, William Pennison, a candidate for state representative, climbed on top of a whiskey barrel to make a speech. William had tried to court the Saints' vote earlier that year, which we just discussed. That just happened for 2026 election. They're trying to get the Latter-day Saints to vote for them, anyways, let's see. So, all right. But when he learned that most of them favored the other candidate, he lashed out against them. So now they're enemies because they won't vote for me. So now there's something wrong with them, right?
Yeah.
This happens to us still, I think. Something's clearly wrong with you. The Mormon leaders are a set of horse thieves, liars, and counterfeiters, William bellowed to the men gathered nearby. John grew uneasy. This is the Latter-day Saint that was there. It would not take much for William to turn the crowd against him and his friends. Most of the men were already angry with them, and many had been drinking whiskey since the polls opened. William warned the voters that the Saints would steal their property and overwhelm their vote. They did not belong to the county, he said, and had no right to take part in the election, which again, he was fine with it when he's trying to get them to vote for him. But now there's a problem. Anyways, I headed a mob to drive you out of Clay County. Maybe they wouldn't want him to vote for him. I don't know why. If he drove a mob to try and get them to leave. Some people might remember that. But anyways, he boasted, turning to John, or he's just a liar. Either way is not good. Yeah. Right? And the other saints, and would not prevent you from being mobbed now. What a uniter of the people, Suddenly, a man in the crowd tried to punch one of the Latter-day Saints. Another saint leapt to his defense, but the crowd knocked him back. A third saint grabbed a piece of lumber from a nearby woodpile and clubbed the attacker across the head. The man fell close to John's feet. Men on both sides grabbed clubs and pulled out knives and whips. Excitement everywhere the saints go. The saints were outnumbered 4-1, but John was determined to protect his fellow saints and their leaders. Spotting a pile of fence rails, he grabbed a thick piece of oak and rushed to the fight. "Oh, yes, you Danites," he cried out. "Here's a job for us." He clubbed the men attacking the saints, measuring each swing to knock his opponents down but not kill them. His friends fought back as well, improvising weapons from sticks and rocks. They knocked down anyone who rushed at them, ending the fight after 2 minutes. So not a very long fight. It was short and intense. The next day, John rode to Far West and told Joseph about the fight. Reports of deaths at Gallatin were spreading rapidly through northern Missouri, and mobs were preparing to attack the saints. Fearing John would be a target for retaliation, Joseph asked him if he and his family would move to Davies, had moved out of Davies County yet. The next day, they learned that no one on either side had died in the fight. People throughout northern Missouri, meanwhile, called meetings to discuss the reports from Gallatin and the rising numbers of saints settling among them. Small mobs vandalizing church members' homes and barns in Davies County and targeted Latter-day Saint settlements nearby. The town was under siege. About 400 saints lived in DeWitt, and neighbors in and around the settlement were pressuring them to move out of the area, insisting they go by October 1st or face expulsion. George Hinkle, the leader of the saints in DeWitt, refused to leave. He said the saints would stay and fight for their right to live there. Feeding tensions in DeWitt were rumors that Danites were preparing to wage war against the Missourians. Many citizens had begun to mobilize against the saints and were now camped on the outskirts of DeWitt, ready to attack the town at any moment. The saints had sent an appeal to Missouri Governor Lilburn Boggs for protection. Says Lyman was ready to defend DeWitt to the end, but after Joseph saw how desperate the situation was, he wanted to broker a peaceful solution. He was sure that if the Missourians were killed in the siege, mobs would descend on the town and wipe the saints out. Joseph sent a plea for Governor Boggs' help, enlisting a friendly Missourian to carry the appeal. The messenger returned 4 days later with news that the governor would not defend the saints against attacks. Boggs insisted the conflict was between them and the mob, which makes no kind of sense when you hear the other violence that's been happening and you just are like, oh, just work it out, guys. He says they must fight it out, he said. That's what Governor Boggs said. Yeah. Do you have anything to add here at this point yet?
No, it's hard to believe that situation, like with the Extermination Order from Governor Boggs, even would have existed. I think that comes later. I think that hadn't happened yet, but
this is right. This is like just before that happens.
Just before,
yeah, pretty much just before.
It's just crazy to think, but at the same time, we have to remember that these places weren't as established as like they are nowadays, and so like being a governor of like Missouri, I mean, at this time, like Missouri was not as inhabited as it is now, so. I think it's relatively easy to believe, but actually, a lot of these, and that's actually something that kind of now comes to mind. A lot of these stories and these histories or these recollections are actually coming a lot further back in history, to the point where if you don't understand like what's going on in the 1830s, 1840s, up to the 1850s in the United States, then a lot of these things might not make much sense. Because you might be thinking like, well, this is America. Like, how come they don't have these rights to like, just, live peacefully and, and practice their religion? But like, that's how these places were, especially in the far West. It was a lot less, it was more lawless in that sense. And that's why when people oftentimes will talk about the printing press that Joseph Smith kind of ordered to get like torn down, it's like, yeah, because you could do that if that was part of like your local, if it was printing something against you, you could do that. Like you're fully within your right to do that. But people oftentimes will take, what is it called? Presentism. They'll take like today's mindset and they'll apply it to people back in the day. And that's like not really helpful by any means. So yeah, but no, not much about that. It was a very interesting story to see like the flip-flopping of the candidate, and he had once already persecuted them. It's just like, okay, wait, hold on. And now that they're not going to support you, now that you're like calling them liars, thieves, and stuff, it's like, I don't know. It's a crazy story for sure.
So let's see. So it says years of stolen land and unpunished crimes against the saints had left him with little trust in politicians and lawyers, and the governor's unwillingness to help the saints only reinforced that view. We will take our affairs into our own hands and manage for ourselves, which that's what Governor Boggs had told them. You're just going to fight it out, right? Like, mom and dad are leaving. We're going on date night. You two kids sort it out. We have applied to the governor and he will do nothing for us. The militia of the county we have tried and they will do nothing. He believed the state itself was no better than a mob. When they talk about the things that happened, we have yielded to the mob in DeWitt, he said, and now they are preparing to strike a blow in Davies. He refused to let anything else be taken from the saints. On October 16th, 1838, as the troops set up camp outside of Adam-ondi-Ahman, a heavy snowfall blanketed the county. Downriver, Agnes Smith was setting in for the night. Agnes was married to Joseph's younger brother, Don Carlos, who was away. Aside from her two small daughters, she was alone in the house. Sometime before midnight, and I just want to set the scene for the things that these people, an example of what people went through here. A group of men broke into her house and surrounded her. Terrified, Agnes gathered up her daughters as the mob drove them out of the snow at gunpoint. Without coats or blankets to keep them warm, Agnes and the girls huddled together as the men set fire to the house. The blaze spread quickly, throwing heavy black smoke into the night sky. Everything Agnes owned was now engulfed in flames. Agnes knew she had to flee. The safest place to go was Adam-ondi-Ahman. Only 3 miles away, but it was dark. The snow was ankle deep. Holding a daughter on each hip, Agnes trudged west as the mob drove more saints into the snow and set fire to their houses. Hoping to weaken the mobs and bring a rapid end to the conflict, the saints decided to march on nearby settlements that supported and equipped their enemies. Dividing their men into 4 units, church and militia leaders ordered raids on Gallatin and 2 other settlements. The 4th unit would patrol the surrounding area on foot. The next morning, October 18th, was shrouded in fog. David Patton rode out to Adam-ondi-Ahman with 100 men bound for Gallatin. When they arrived in town, the men found it empty except for some stragglers who fled as men approached. Once the streets were clear, the men broke into the general store and filled their arms with goods and supplies the refugee saints needed in Adam-ondi-Ahman. Which I was reading that and I was thinking like, oh man, they're taking stuff, but I'm like, all their things have been burned, their house has been burned. Like they gotta take care of themselves. They've been told they gotta fight this out. So what else do they do? Several men emerged from the store with heavy crates and barrels, which they hefted onto wagons they had brought with them. When the shelves were empty, the men went to other shops and dwellings, taking quilts, bedding, coats, and clothing. The raid lasted several hours. Once they packed away all they could carry, the men torched the store and other buildings and rode out of town. Exaggerated reports of the skirmish at the Crooked River arrived at the desk of Missouri Governor Lilburn Boggs soon after the fight ended. Some reports claimed the Saints had massacred 50 Missourians in the fight. Others said the death toll was closer to 60, with so many rumors spreading about the battle. Boggs had no way of knowing what had actually happened. In times of frontier conflict, hastily organized militias often looked and acted like lawless vigilantes. That morning, the Saints had attacked not a mob, as they had supposed, but a company of Missouri State Militia, and that was considered insurrection against the state. Oops. A longtime resident of Independence, Boggs had supported the Saints' expulsion from Jackson County and had no desire to protect their rights. Yet he had stayed neutral in the fight so far, even when both sides begged for his help. As reports of Latter-day Saints' aggression spread, citizens across the state wrote him, urging action against the Saints. So he's put in that situation where things look really bad, and people are writing to him saying, this is bad. Look at what these Mormons are doing. They're just destroying everything, But he chose to not get involved and let them fight it out. So, among the letters and statements that crossed the governor's desk was an affidavit from a church apostle, Thomas Marsh, claiming that Joseph intended to overrun the state, the nation, and ultimately the world. So that's another thing when you have people who've been members of the church and active and everything, and they've been leaders, and now they're flipping. Yeah.
It's sad. I know.
Yeah.
Because doesn't he come back later to kind of like apologize for the stuff that he did, Thomas B. Marsh?
It seems like it. We'll have to watch out for that in here. I think so.
Yeah.
It is believed by every true Mormon that Smith's prophecies are superior to the law of the land, Thomas warned. Attached to the affidavit was a statement from Orson Hyde attesting to its truth. And so again, it does make things look really bad when you have people that have flipped on the church, Joseph mostly, really, when it comes down to it. The documents gave Boggs everything he needed to make a case against the Saints, because he's going like, I got people from Missouri saying this is really bad. I got people from his own church saying like, yeah, we're going to do all this bad stuff. We got prophecy, Joseph's got prophecies and we're going to overrun the state. So he's like, well, sounds like a duck, right? Soon after the confrontation of the Crooked River, he ordered several divisions of Missouri militiamen to quell the Latter-day Saint forces and bring the Saints into submission. He also, what'd you hear? Like, bring them into submission. You're like, oh. He also issued an executive order to the general in charge of the 1st Division of Missouri troops. Let's see. So it says, so this is the infamous Extermination Order, a part of it at least. Information of from Governor Lilburn Boggs. Information of the most appalling character, the governor wrote on October 27th, 1838, places the Mormons in the attitude of an open and an avowed defiance of the laws and having made war upon the people of this state. Your orders are therefore to hasten your operations with all possible speed. The Mormons must be treated as enemies and must be exterminated or driven from the state. And I'm actually really glad to read this part too, and now seeing that other information, I can see how they gave a lot of grace to Boggs here, actually, saying that look how everything had been set up, that he had to do it. Should he be involved in the first place? They asked him for his help. And he wouldn't do anything about it, but now they're the bad guys, clearly, right? So, but he's got to feel like, why would they ask for his, it seems like, why would they ask for his help if they didn't care about the law and they were just going to overrun everything, right? What do you think about all this stuff? What did you think about this, kind of before and you knew? What do you feel about it, now, going through it a little bit more? Because I know my feeling about it has changed a little bit just now, actually.
Yeah, the Extermination Order, how it came about. Yeah, when you actually look through the history, it's I can see where he might have been So there's two parts to me, right? There's the part where it's like an extermination order, really? Like that's pretty crazy.
Extreme.
But if you have a local, I guess, militia in the Danites or in these little groups, right, who are attacking Missouri militiamen, then I don't know, does an extermination order seem
fitting?
Like it's yeah, especially if you're receiving reports from like, people like Thomas Marsh and Orson Hyde, who are, I mean, seemingly in leadership positions in the church, and they're saying what they're saying. I mean, I can put the pieces together, and it can make somewhat sense, which is another testament to the saints books, right? Like the people who compiled it, while they are trying to keep a faithful perspective of the historical account, like they're also not whitewashing the account. Like they're putting people who we would look at, and Orson Hyde is like, he's a pretty prominent figure in our church's history. The same thing with Thomas Marsh. I mean, Thomas Marsh and Orson Hyde are, I don't know. I'm certain Orson Hyde's in the Doctrine and Covenants, but I'm certain Thomas Marsh is in the Doctrine and Covenants, right? So, yeah, these are pretty prominent people. But yeah, to your point, I mean, like David Patton, he was attacking what he believed to be a hostile mob at Cricket River, but he actually was attacking the Missouri militia. So like in retaliation, I mean, I don't find it to be too far-fetched for a governor to be like, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and do this because, but I'm assuming that's what you were talking about, right?
Yeah.
The kind of change in perspective from kind of how we kind of viewed that history till now.
Yeah, because before I was like, oh, how terrible they did that. But I'm like, well, see, and then of course now I'm thinking about it even more, and I'm like, we've had some political things happen, right? Where they're like, for your own good, we have to do this, because we're so benevolent. I'm like, look,
Yeah.
somebody who, first of all, is like, let me be clear. I'm like, you don't need to say you're going to be clear. You just are, right? They're like, oh, I really care. I'm like, no, you show people how you care. You don't have to tell them. I mean, because I'm so caring, it's like, no, you're just doing it. You're just actually doing it, not telling it. And they call it virtue signaling. And so, we've had some things where I'm like, we've been warned. It's like, okay, well, they want us to go do crazy stuff so that they have to say, well, we got to take your guys' arms away. I mean, when you look at stuff that happened from the pandemic, I didn't realize that Europe is unarmed, or England or something is unarmed and stuff until I've heard about these different situations that have happened, and so it's scary when we hear a little bit later on and stuff about how they end up having the saints, come to the town square and give up their arms, but now with hearing this, you can see how things got to that point because there was so much violence against them that it's kind of like, okay, well, can we have some peace here somehow? What do we have to trade for peace? Because it was the Lord's restored church. But it was really interesting for me, though, when I was at work just the other day, there's a lady from the Congo, and a lot of people have come here to where I am there. I've met a lot of people from the Congo, and they've just been great people that I've met, actually. And it's been interesting because I saw she had this big scar on her cheek, and I was like, I care about people and I am curious about their story, but not everybody's always comfortable with it. But I talked to this lady several times, and so I could feel like she could feel that I cared and I wasn't just being like nosy or assuming or anything. But I'm like, hey, so what happened? And she's like, oh, well, I was just too close to another lady. And of course, her English is good, but it's not great. And she's like, I was just too close to something and, cut my cheek or whatever. And I was like, oh, well, I said, oh, okay, well, I was just wondering because I know in the Congo, there's been a lot of war. And so for all I knew, something happened. She goes, oh, no, but this scar on my leg, that's because a lady tried to kill me. And I was like, oh, wow. She's like, yeah, this lady killed my mom when I was 20. My sister was 15. She's like, and we hid, and by the grace of God, she's like, we were able to get to, trying to remember if it was like Brazil or some other country they were able to get to. and then they had come up here, and she's been here for quite a few years and stuff. But I just think that's the amazing thing that is happening for us right now, is as much as, wickedness and other ill intentions are coming in, with so many people coming into the other countries, there's also this opportunity for us to see, like the saints books, to see people who have gone through great persecution, and they just want to worship God, but they are so close to God because they need it for their daily survival, for their daily bread, as they would say. And for us, we're like, oh man, that bread in the fridge has kind of been there for a while, let's toss it. Oh, let's peel this because I don't really like the taste of it. It's like, no, when you need that food, you're not going to throw any of it away. You're like, I don't know when I'm going to have something next. And so we just don't get it a lot of times. And so that's the thing that's a blessing to us, I feel like, is we can serve a worldwide mission just being where we're at. I mean, I've come across people from over 70 countries in 4 years, and that's just amazing to me. I never could imagine that could happen. My husband was doing a live stream and talked to a guy. He was on TikTok, and he brought a guy on and was talking with him because he was in the comment section. He was from Pakistan. And he was a guy who was a Christian, and he was like, I want to hear your testimony and, share with me. And he was like, you come to Pakistan and you stay with us, you come and see us and stuff, anyways. But my husband's like, I feel like he really meant it, and the spirit is so strong, pulling people towards God and towards knowing Christ. And so to me, it's like, these saints books are a blessing, but I'm seeing people in real life that are like these saints, and to feel the sanctification they've gone through is really humbling. I mean, what's it been like for you with people that you have come across and relating to this kind of sanctification that happens with people, and, your appreciation viewpoint it gave you, just like this has?
Yeah, I think especially when you like do, I don't think they're called splits, but like going out with the missionaries, like in your ward as a member, you see this when they go to like places that are maybe like lower income, like apartments and stuff like that. It's like the people there are just they're more relatable, I think, to some of the stories that we read about in the saints, like people that are like really humble, of humble beginnings, and they're really like, they have a strong desire to like actually receive the message. And the last city I was in, Fayetteville, there's actually a huge population of individuals that come from Haiti. So they speak Haitian Creole. There's like we actually, in my last ward, we had 3 sets of elders. We had one set, no, we had two or three. I think we had 2 Haitian Creole elders, 2 sets of them. And then we had English speaking. And within our ward, we actually had like probably almost a branch worth of people. I don't know the statistics on like who is paying their tithe or whatnot, but like there was enough there to where if
Enough Haitians?
Yeah.
Wow.
If enough of them were paying, because they essentially filled the overflow of our ward building, and we were in a building that was like a stake building, so it was kind of one of the newer ones. So like the overflow was actually pretty decently sized, and they would just wear like the headsets and they would just do translation for the normal sacrament. But yeah, it's always weird, like not weird. It's always humbling to like see just how willing they are to accept the message. And yeah, now that you mention it, like looking back on the stories within the Saints volumes, it's like very similar. But I mean, obviously the Saints were coming from like more of European bloc countries, but yeah.
So at least they had the language, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And but to me, I'm like, how much would the Spirit have to speak to you when it's not even in your language?
Yeah, for sure.
So, anyways, but yep. So, did you have anything else to say about that? I know that is the Extermination Order was quite significant and one of those very interesting things that people learn about our church, and you got to decide how they feel about that, you know.
Yeah, not much more to mention about it, except for I'm not sure when that extermination order was lifted. Wasn't it like pretty recently?
Yeah, it was like in the 80s or something like that, where
Yeah.
you could kill a Mormon and there's no repercussions to you. But
That's
and that's what I think
insane,
is,
by the
yeah.
way.
And I
That's
think
insane.
if I remember, I think that it was like in some Hall of Records and it was just kind of quietly removed or something like that. We're like, that looks pretty bad. So we're just going to
Yeah.
pretend that didn't happen. But, and so what I was going to too is my coworker from the Congo, I said, oh, you were in times of war. And I wasn't sure how good her English was. And so I thought, well, if she speaks Swahili, I'll use my Google Translate. I'll type this in. And I said, our church, they did try to kill us here in America, and so it was one of those impactful things where until it comes out of your mouth, and in this point, my hands, it was like, it was real, but not so real to be like, we can relate on this point of somebody trying to end your life because of what you believe, because of who you are, not because of anything you've done necessarily, but because of impression or assumption. And so I was like, wow, we've both have been engaged in war. I mean, for me, it's been historically, but I mean, that's coming around to us again. There's been a lot of preaching against the church and the members of being undesirables. I guess you could call us that we're undesirables. So, and that was the great thing. We talked to this pastor too. He was like, we just need to have room for everybody at our dinner table. He's like, and he didn't mention Mormon or, he mentioned some other faith. He's like, no matter which one you are, we all should have, I've learned that with real Southern hospitality, you're a person that has room for whoever it is at your dinner table. It doesn't matter who they are. And so anyways, but so we are going to continue with the Saints books. I'm not sure how many more videos we're going to have on just the standard of truth. But I mean, there's so many foundational things to the church that it's really hard to not go bits at a time, little stories at a time. So, and after this next episode is going to be about the Hans Mill massacre. So that's gonna be really a tough one to go through, and then we'll be proceeding on with the courts and things, and see if we get into the martyrdom of Joseph Smith within that episode or the episode after. I think we'll be getting to that point. So, anyways, thank you so much, everybody, for watching, and I hope that something from this has taught you something, like it has taught Sam and I. We've both learned so much from the Saints, and even in doing this video now, it's a blessing to know that we can receive personal revelation, that God still speaks to his prophets and apostles, and he speaks to us. And do you have anything you want to add there, Sam?
No, I've learned a lot already from our discussion, like you said, and I look forward to our next discussion for sure.
And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
So,
Amen.
And please do put some comments in and let us know if there's anything that you have any questions about, or you've learned, or things you love about the Saints. If you want to put something from your family history, we actually just looked into it before we started this recording. We're cousins, like 10th and 8th cousins, however that works out, but we're cousins. That's super cool. So, and that's a really fun thing for anybody to look into, because, family is often closer than you think. So anyways, thank you so much. Everybody have a good night, and we will see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Your notes of love, they fill the air, reminding me always that you are there. Love notes from the heavens calling out to me. Every word a treasure, setting my spirit free. With faith in my heart and a love full of light, I'll walk this path, guided by your sight. Forever I'll cherish these notes above. In the arms of sweet faith, enveloped in love.